We all know that the queen is the strongest piece that we have in chess, but it's very hard to actually use the full potential of this piece. In this game, Magnus Carlsen managed to use it in a way that I've never seen before the game. He was playing former world champion Vichy, and he continued here with d4, and after e4 he played d5. And an idea in this position, he definitely wants to play d5 if he was allowed to form this really nice chain of pawns. So actually after d5, Magnus is trying to avoid that to happen. Vichy continued with knight f6, bishop g2, and now they both started to develop the pieces. Knight c3, castle, and now very interesting idea from Carson. He tried to play a3 before developing this guy. From here, he still didn't decide. He wants to go to h3, maybe e3, knight g2. It's not so clear, so first I'm going to ask this guy if he wants to pick on c3 or not. Vichy decided to keep the bishop with bishop c5, and now that the bishop is in this diagonal, it makes a lot of sense to play e3. e3 has actually some problems in white position, since now if some plans for black might be to try to bring the knight here, and then there is some really nice squares that can be used. And also now our bishop on d2 is kind of stuck. He cannot go through the diagonal, he cannot go through this diagonal either, so our bishop on d2 is somehow some problem for us. So Vichy continued with d6, just trying to develop pieces, and knight g2 happened from Carson. We have this problem here that we cannot use this square. If we go here, maybe he can even push us the knight out from f4 with some d5, but instead of just developing the pieces with bishop f5, knight d7, knight d5, Anand decided to take quickly on d5, and now a really nice move from Carlsen, because it would be just very natural to take with the pawn here, but as I said, we had this kind of problem with the pieces that all the pieces are stuck, so it's very nice to change some piece here with knight d5, because actually after knight takes and pawn takes, we have some extra squares for our pieces. It's very important to realize when we have some space problems, and this is some of the most common way to fix it, yet try to change some of the pieces that are fighting for the same square, right? So actually Anand decided to continue with knight d7, short castle, and knight f6. Of course, it was also possible to play f5 followed by knight e5 for Anand, but then probably he wasn't so happy with the action of this bishop right here, because after knight f6 the bishop can go to g4, which is definitely a much stronger square than would be d7, and definitely wasn't easy to decide what was better, but he was happy with knight f6. And now again Carlsen has to decide that this guy goes here or this guy, and again he chose very right with bishop c3. If we go knight c3, again we have this bishop on d2 that is kind of stuck, it's not helping the other pieces, so with bishop c3 we want to take on f6, and then even the pawn on e4 might be weak. And you might be asking, okay Miguel, but you told me that the queen was going to be the key on this game, and the queen is still on d1. Yeah, that's true, but it's gonna change really quickly. And after bishop g4, Carlsen took on f6, queen f6, b4, important because b2 was hanging, bishop b6, he took on e4 and a5. In this position, well, white is a pawn up, but black can always take on e2 and try to defend maybe some kind of opposite color bishop hanging, and also you don't really have to take yet. We have definitely some activity through the a file. If we open, also c5 is a really nice square for the bishop once this guy goes out of here, so definitely black have some counterplay. ba5 and rook a5. And first tip, in order to use the queen correctly, always have in your mind which pieces are hanging, and always, especially if you have a queen, have in your mind that checks will basically enhance the quality of the queens. For instance, this queen controls all of the squares, right? This is very kind of obvious, but also if we realize that after bishop h7 and king h7, it doesn't only control all of this, but also controls the squares after the check. So it's also controlling this, also controlling this, also controlling this. Why do I say this? Because after queen b1, queen from d1 was also controlling b6, and this is not so easy to realize, but it's very important to know that any piece that has check, especially queens, can control a huge amount of squares when they are used correctly. It was also very important to realize which pieces were hanging. This guy was hanging, this guy on b6 was hanging, and also the rook will be hanging once we take on b6. g6 was played, and then queen b6 came from Magnus Carlsen. Queen is attacking the rook, and that's why basically black cannot take here on e2, and I'm trying to play rook a8, trying to activate the pieces. We are 2 pawns up, but the truth is that this guy is hanging, also a3 is hanging, also this guy is hanging, and black has definitely some really annoying ideas with some queen f3, bishop h3, trying to create some counterplay, so we have to be very careful with this. But again, the queen will be the key to defend everything. Magnus came really quickly with queen d4 to the center. Another very important tip for the queen, try to centralize the queen if you can, especially if your opponent cannot attack the queen in the center. Queen should go to the center. Why? Because from here, it will be controlling almost the whole board, and this is just something insane for just one piece, right? Queen f3 happened, and knight c3. Again, it seems we are getting mated, but thanks to the fact that our queen is centralized, we simply have this check, and the queen is not only controlling all of this from here, but also it was controlling all of this. This is one of the most important things of this video. Try to realize that when you have some check with the queen, basically the queen controls everything. So after knight c3, Vichy tried to play rook e8 with, some ideas, main ideas probably to avoid just queen e4 with some change of queens, and definitely black should keep the queens to try to gain some counterplay, because if we reach some endgame with just some pawn down for black, it will not be so nice. So still bishop h3 is not a threat because we have queen h4, and again Carlsen was happy to play h3. We should not be afraid of this endgame because still we have a pawn up and, well, simply some nice endgame to play, and now we also have a really nice square for the knight here on a4 after some 92 94 plan to basically attack and defend everything at the same time. So the game continued with bishop f5, and again we look for the weaknesses. This guy not defended, this guy not defended, not defended, not defended, not defended, not defended. Almost every piece on the black position is not defended. Well, if you check in white position, everything is defended. Not this guy, but it's kind of defended because we have this check. So queen f6, attacking and attacking here. On f7, black was forced to play king g8, and now we have to activate the pieces. How do we do it? Again, thanks to the queen. It's spinning here, right? So we can simply play rook a b1. He cannot take because the queen is hanging. He cannot take because the queen is hanging. Again, using the full power of the queen. Attacking, defending at the same time, controlling basically a ton of squares. Something just incredible for just one piece. Rook e3 came from Bishian, and his idea was, well, if you take here, at least I have draw here. But probably something else than draw, because there is some rook d5 idea here, trying to come to d2, also some rook e4 followed by rook h5 is a great idea, so it was very dangerous this for white, and also you are definitely playing for a win, so you don't want to take on e3, and again, queen will be the key. We have some check here, and we could pick up the rook on e5, but we have to be careful because this guy is going to mate us, so we want to have our queen really close to our king when we are getting attacked. And that's why Carlsen decided to take first on b7. We are threatening now queen f7, which is kind of mate, so you have to defend f7 somehow. And Anand's idea was to play bishop c8. And this seems just right, because, well, if white tried to change the queens here, we are attacking the rook, so, well, probably rook c7 will make sense. Bishop will take on h3, a3 will be hanging, the king is also kind of unsafe because still there is some weaknesses on the light square, and probably black wouldn't have so much trouble holding this position. But things change again very quickly because the queen from here controls a ton of squares, as always, that has a check. Queen d8, move, and I just take the bishop. Still, it seems that actually after rook c3, we attack the queen, we're attacking also the pawn. You're going to take the pawn, you probably have only one pawn down, but also d5 is kind of under attack, so black should be able to hold this, right? But again, pieces hanging. This guy not defended, and again the magic happens again with the queen. Rook f7, you cannot take with the queen because we have queen c3, so you have to take with the king, and again check, here, check, and I pick up the rook. Only white queen was needed in order to make huge madness with the black position. Now, Anand took on a3, queen b4, we have 2 pawns out in an endgame, and this was, Not extremely easy to convert, but Magnus tried to do it very, very quickly. Queen came to g5, again attacking this guy, queen f5, and now we simply reached this endgame where we only have one pawn up, but the thing is that the king is cut here, he cannot go to stop this guy, and also this guy is going to run. If the rook goes at some point trying to stop the pawn, then our king will come to help the pawn. The game continued like this: rook a3, h4, king d4, h5, trying to go d5, h6. You have to stop the pawn at some point, and now the king comes to help pawn. Rook h7, rook e6, king c3, check, just trying to gain some tempo, king d3, and then king f4. Go, and then this guy will keep going. You might be able to promote this guy, but then I'll simply promote mine, and I have some pawns extra to win the game. Rook f7, king g5, king e2, and after rook d6, Vichy decided to resign. Extremely nice game for Magnus Carlsen, who managed to use the queen with his full potential. Again, always be careful, check where the weak pieces are. Always try to keep the queen centralized if you can, especially if the queen cannot be attacked in the center. You definitely should put your queen in the center. And also, and very important, if you have some check with the queen, try to keep it. Don't give the check randomly, because thanks to the fact that there is that check, the queen will control 1,000 more squares. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one.